Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The Modern Warfare 3 meta got a nice update with the Season 3 patch itself. We saw the introduction of a couple of new weapons, which we'll be featuring here today, alongside several different buffs and nerfs as well. And so today, I wanted to go over the new top 10 best weapons to be running in Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer specifically. Now, we're not going in any particular order here today just because we're bouncing all across different weapon categories, but the Chimera as an assault rifle sort of SMG hybrid build here works especially well in multiplayer. It's able to keep up with a lot of the other close to mid-range meta options in the game, and it's nice to see an MW2 weapon in the mix. Obviously, these did just see a nice buff across the board with their visual shake, their visual noise. It'll be a lot easier to aim accurately with MW2 guns going forward, and the Chimera is one of the better options in the game. So initially here, cast a spray compensator, gonna attack that horizontal control, and some firing aim stability is added on top of that. Just makes the weapon a lot more predictable with its recoil pattern. Vorpal barrel adds in some better range, some better horizontal control, and a tad bit better strafe speed as well, which is nice to see. So you're kind of getting a lot with just one attachment out of that. The angled underbarrel is really solid, again, just attacking that horizontal control, and no real cons outside of slightly added vertical control, which is not a huge deal, especially in like the close to mid range. I go for the glassless optic here. A slate would work well, an MK3 reflector would work well. It's all about preference here, whatever you're the most comfortable with, always go for that with your optics. And then I like the TRX 56 stock if you want a bit more of an accurate build, or a Ravage 10 stock if you want something that's maybe a tad bit faster. Either or works really well here, just comes down to preference and how you want the gun to feel. But regardless of what you choose, the Chimera absolutely is capable of holding its own in MW3 MP Season 3. Next up, I've got the MTZ-556. This thing is really competitive across the board as a more aggressive rifle. If you want to use it at 10 meters, 20 meters, 50 meters, you could use this close, mid, and long range, and it's going to be efficient regardless. It's got a fast TTK, relatively easy to use as well. So again, we actually are using the cast break once more. If you can't tell, it's a pretty competitive compensator, and it's really efficient at doing what it does well with very minimal cons. Again, I've also got the angled underbarrel once more too, just to maintain that good control over range. I do go for the Drifter heavy long barrel, which focuses more on control, range, velocity, a little bit of aiming, idle sway there again to help out with the weapon and just make it feel a lot more predictable and consistent across the long range. Then I also go for the slate reflector, a basic blue dot in this case, but again, whatever optic you're comfortable with, always go for that. Then the close quarters stock actually helps out with control for some reason, so it's gonna just make it again easier to use over the mid to long range. It's aggressive enough as is that you could use this as their base primary and run and gun with this, and then, you know, post up somewhere, watch a choke point, and pick off players from afar. Very versatile rifle and very, very reliable. Now, the new FJX Horus SMG is a ton of fun to run around with. Its damage is not absolutely crazy broken or anything, but in terms of a speedy SMG, this thing is so good. It's actually the same setup we've been running over in Warzone as well, just because we're taking the same style of fights in multiplayer and Warzone with it. So I kind of just go all in on tack, sprint speed, strafe speed, sprint to fire, things like that. Zem 35 compensator will keep the weapon a little bit easier to use, especially because I'm using an iron sight build here. They're not the cleanest sights, I won't lie. I don't love them, but I love the mobility, and I kind of need everything else on here if I want to keep that super fast. Light barrel, for instance, helps out with movement speed, tack sprint speed, ADS, sprint to fire, DR6 hand stop, movement speed, strafe speed, ADS, sprint to fire, basic 48 round extended mag, taking a brief break from the movement. Then we get to the Ripper light stock. Movement speed, tack sprint speed, strafe, sprint to fire. This thing flies, and it kind of fries. Like, if you're hitting headshots with it, it's not a slow TTK by any means, but just the finesse levels of this thing, so much fun. Now, because of some of the nerfs that we saw to some of the other subs with the Season 3 update, for instance, the Rival, the Swarm sort of indirectly becomes a lot more competitive here, and especially in MP, the Swarm is incredibly reliable. It is a fast killing, pretty aggressive sub, and also you can put a 100 round drum on it. It's not necessary by any means, but it's so fun. Realistically, I think 50 would be more appropriate for multiplayer, but if you can run 100, why not, right? I also go for the DR6 hand stop here yet again to speed things up when we're using 100 rounds. We want any mobility we can get out of it. Zem 35 compensator in this case, the thing does sort of bounce around when you're shooting it, so anything to help out that control is going to be useful. Reckless 90 long barrel, really what I care about here is the control is nice, but that effective damage range being extended by 30%, that's huge. That means you're going to be able to fry players at a slightly further distance, and we're using this thing in the close range range, that extra few meters can actually be very, very clutch. Then lastly, just for some mobility, I've sort of been messing around with the factory stock. This does mean that I'm using iron sights. I don't love them. I don't hate them. If you really want an optic on this, I'd probably drop the factory stock and, you know, run a NIDAR or run a slate or something like that here. But in terms of a good balance between control, mobility, and all the ammo in the world, this is a pretty fun build. We also have the new MWIII sniper. Just like the MWIII from Advanced Warfare, this thing is so good in multiplayer. It's gonna one-shot in the vast majority of engagements you're getting into with it. If you're hitting upper body, it's gonna pretty much be putting those enemies down with that first initial shot. This build here is all about quick scoping. I'm trying to make the ADS as good as I can. I'm trying to make this as aggressive as I possibly can. So for that reason, I do go for the downfall light barrel. It's an 8% increase to ADS. Hurts your range and whatnot some. If that's a big deal to you and you find yourself getting hit markers at longer distances, you could just drop the barrel entirely and go for, you know, an underbarrel to speed you up some even more. But I like the whole addition to mobility that this does offer with the setup. I go for the Razor Hawk laser sight. It's obvious that I'm using a laser. You see it in game. It's very apparent. But it's a one-shot sniper, and I just need the ADS and get my sights on you, and it doesn't matter if you see me because you're gonna be looking at a kill cam, right? So this speeds up the ADS a ton as well. That's super convenient. I like the base sniper scope, so I go for that. I go for the super light 90 stock, speeds up the ADS, some general mobility benefits too here, which is pretty nice. Just behind the face cam here, if you're looking for a screenshot, we got the quick bolt, just allows me to get shots off faster, so back to back to back, I can fire. I don't have to wait as long in between each shot. That's obviously clutch there. And then I've kind of been back and forth. I mean, the OP 980 rear grip is going to be the obvious choice for ADS speed, gets you down to a 407. I was running TAC for the sake of having a strafe speed so that when I do ADS, I can kind of strafe a little bit faster. I like them both. I think ultimately the 980 is probably where I lean more just for the aggressive, fast, fun, quick scoping build, but there's a few things you can change around depending on how you want the gun to feel. Regardless, it's the MWIII. It feels just like it did back in AW. It's a ton of fun. And by the way, as we are going through all the setups here today, if you enjoy the video, do me a favor, drop a like on it. It's always really appreciated and it does really help the channel grow. And of course, if you are new here and you want to guarantee you're always up to date with everything going on in COD, whether it's multiplayer, Warzone, mobile here and there, I got you covered on a daily basis. So feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Next up, we got another fun sort of quick scoping sniper style build. It's the Bas-B conversion kit, the 277 Outlaw. With this, it's pretty much a guaranteed 2-hit kill maximum when you're playing super aggressive with this. If you can hit headshots, it'll be a one shot and that's super rewarding, but the fire rate here is crazy. The mobility is crazy for an aggressive sort of cowboy rifle style build. Quick scoping, this thing is so much fun. If I'm playing a small map mosh pit, if I just want to mess around, this is a gun that I'm oftentimes going to. So obviously the most important part here is the Outlaw 277 aftermarket part, which turns it into this lever action rifle. It also gives you the sawed-off mod, so you get way better mobility, faster ADS, obviously, which is clutch, better strafe, general movement speed, sprint speed, everything like that. I want to speed up that ADS even more, so I do go for the Razor Hawk laser sight yet again. DR6 hand stop will also speed up that ADS and the general movement there. Then I go for the long barrel just to extend that range out some. If I am able to obviously hit that one shot over range because this helps out the velo and the range at the same time, that's even better, obviously, right? So gives you some versatility to the setup, but overall, just running and gunning with this thing takes a little bit of aim warm up to get used to, but you can start quick scoping, and when you go on a tear with this thing, it's so rewarding. Now, no surprises here, but the MCW, even despite the nerf to its headshot multiplier, is still very good here in multiplayer. It's basically the easiest weapon to use, and it's pretty aggressive for a rifle. Even with this build here, which is mainly mid to long range based, you can run and gun with this thing and it'll still hold its own relatively well in the close range, unless you're coming up against somebody who's using a crazy mobility based sub, or maybe a shotgun or something like that, or that sword that gets you in the animation. Really obnoxious, but anyways, I digress. It's a very reliable and versatile rifle in general. We are going for the Cassis break on here yet again, and I do pair that with the angled grip once more, so there's basically no horizontal bounce on this. You're going to be able to predict this recoil pattern very consistently, even over really long ranges. I go for the Mammoth heavy barrel, better range, better velocity on here as well. No added control, but we're obviously getting that elsewhere to begin with. We got the MK3 reflector on here, basic elo sight. Then the Venom stock helps out with some strafe, some general movement speed, just makes it a little bit more aggressive, a tad bit more versatile across the board. You could also try swapping that for a laser sight if you wanted to, even a rear grip for some better mobility, but overall, the MCW is still a top tier choice. Now, the SOA Subverter, still a beast here in multiplayer. It got slowed down a little bit with Season 3. They also reduced some of its ranges, but its pure damage output, very good. Also very clean iron sights, so this build's a tad bit more aggressive than what I'd run over in Warzone. I am still going for the Zem 35 compensator just to make it easy. I like the control benefits that this offers, and I do go for the long barrel as well so that I am versatile. I can run and gun with this thing, fight at 10 meters with my sights up, or fight at 50, 60, 70 meters wherever I, end up running into enemies at. Helps out that range, velocity control, and firing aim stability as well. DR6 hand stop just to speed things up, keep this nice and agile and aggressive even as a mid to long range based battle rifle. 50 round drum is nice to have in multiplayer. I don't think it's necessary by any means. Like if you wanted to drop this and put on a laser sight for better mobility or a rear grip for something, you absolutely could, but I also don't feel like those are super necessary. So 50 works for me just fine here. Then I go for the heavy stock. Helps out with some basic control there. Doesn't really hurt you all that much in terms of ADS or sprint to fire for what this battle rifle is to begin with. Really enjoying this across the board. Like I said, it hits like a truck. It will absolutely erase players. Hey everyone, real quick, wanted to give a shout out to my friends over at Control Freak. I've been using Control Freak thumbsticks on my controllers for years now. Like honestly, I feel like I can't play without them at this point. Getting that better grip on your thumbsticks, extending your range of motion, making it easier to be accurate and to stay accurate. Truly, it is a game changer. So if you ever want to pick up a pair for yourself, toss in code WhosImmortal at checkout and you'll get a nice little discount. The link for that will be down in the description below if you're interested. Now the Ram 9 did see some slight changes with season 3, but for multiplayer, I still really enjoy this as a go-to sub, right up there with the Swarm and previously the Rival as well. This is one of my go-to options here. Really fast setup so you can fly and fry with this thing and it still kills relatively quickly across the board, especially in SMG based ranges here. I actually use the integrated suppressor barrel here, basically because while it is hurting your range and whatnot some, it's speeding you up, it's giving you better ADS and sprint to fire, keeps you off the radar as well, so you can run and go with this thing and still be very stealthy and agile at the same time. Nice little 2-for-1 there. Plus these ranges in multiplayer, not the biggest deal when you're running around, right? Skeletal vertical grip helps out the recoil in terms of vertical and also the gun kick, and gives me a better ADS and sprint to fire. I also go for the Razor Hawk, yet again better ADS and sprint to fire. Your standard 50 round extended mag, and then motion tac pad stock, better ADS and sprint to fire. So we do attack that sprint to fire a ton. The Ram has been lacking on that. It's a little bit better post season 3, but this setup overall is going to be one of the more aggressive ones you can have for the Ram 9, and it still puts down players very quickly. And then lastly here, I've got the FR Avancer, another MW2 gun. So we started with MW2, we're ending with MW2, and this, much like the Chimera, is great as an aggressive rifle, whether you're fighting 10, 15, 20 meters or 35, 40, 50 meters. This thing's got a lot of versatility, relatively easy to use, and a pretty quick TTK at the same time. So Zem 35 compensator yet again works well here, plus adding in the firing aim stability. Even though they did bump up MW2 weapons in general with season 3, adding that on top of anything is always going to be a good idea. I do go for the FR 435 barrel, extends that control and velocity a little bit, actually ends up hurting your range just a little bit, but it's not a huge deal. 5% is not going to be the end of the world. I do go for Bruin heavy support here. You could also use FTAC angle. That again, the increased recoil gun kick here though, I find to be a little bit more beneficial in this very specific case, just because of how the FR Avancer's recoil works in general in the pattern itself. 45 round extended mag here. It's got a faster fire rate, so an extended mag is nice to have. Then I go for the MK3 reflector ELO. I just find myself to be very accurate with this as opposed to the irons. They're not bad, but if I'm gonna land more shots at this, I probably should be using this, right? And that being said, those are 10 of the best weapons to be running in MW3 multiplayer here in season 3. And that's gonna wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.